have to ensure that we are unapologetic about our socialism. There are also other issues that we firmly believe in, whether it's BDS, right, or whether it's the end goal of seizing the means of production, where we do not have the same level of support at this very moment.
So just to be clear, seizing the means of production, that is the Communist Manifesto. That is communism. He just said it. He said it's not popular right now, but that's ultimately what we want. There's always a value in contrast, right? Remember I told you you were going to have 8 years of Obama, 4 years of Donald Trump, and then when we had 4 years of Joe Biden, I said just the contrast is what's most valuable. And that's why Trump has a really good chance of winning. And I hope that he continues this contrast because we see the difference, honestly, faster than we thought it would come to fruition. 8, 4, 4, so 12 years of basically one administration, Obama and Biden. It's an extension of the same. And one of these things is not like the other. The same can be said for New York City because we are looking at an actual communist who wants to take over a city that is already struggling, make it worse, and you'll have a timeline that will exist at the same period of time that Donald Trump is taking the country in the exact opposite direction. None of these facts or individual, it doesn't exist in a vacuum. Context matters. I actually think there's a real silver lining here if Mamdani happens to win.
Zohran is a f***ing commie. Oh, you thought New York was bad before. His ideas on policy sound straight out of Zimbabwe. Well, libs don't care about that.
That's fun.
It's a liberal pronunciation of Zimbabwe.
It is. You have to make it fit.
Yeah.
So keep in mind, a lot of people don't realize this, and we talked about this when we covered this on election night. We said, if Donald Trump is within 16 points, I believe, was the metric in New York, we said that would be historic. That would be better than anyone since George Bush Sr., and that would be a pretty good indicator that he's going to win the popular vote. And we had some people here who, it cost us millions of dollars, who their analytics were right. We were correct. We were also correct in calling Georgia. So a big story from that election that many people may have missed is that the biggest swing that took place for Donald Trump was actually urban areas. Urban areas, that's where he improved the most by around 8% on average. Gosh. And that happened because of policies that people like Mamdani want to put on steroids. So if you missed this last week, Zohran Mamdani, he won the New York City, the Democratic primary. And there's going to be a showdown, him, Eric Adams, and Cuomo. It seems like Mamdani is the clear favorite right now. So when you understand that Stalin Mamdani would be awful for New York, and if you also agree with me that I don't really care about New York anymore, at the same time as the country improves, then it becomes a cautionary tale like Detroit. It becomes a cautionary tale like California, and people remember it. So let's first get to the problems presented by Mamdani's blatant love and leaning in towards socialism.
So when people say democratic socialist, right, and I'm curious what you think this means. Do you like capitalism?
No, I have many critiques of capitalism. And I think ultimately the definition for me of why I call myself a democratic socialist is the words of Dr. King decades ago. He said, call it democracy or call it democratic socialism. There must be a better distribution of wealth for all of God's children in this country. Grocery prices are out of control. The cost of eggs and milk has skyrocketed. Some stores are even using dynamic.
Yeah, well, that's because in New York, the price of milk for a gallon is $5.93 right now. It's $4 in the rest of the country. Eggs. Rest of the country, $4.50. In New York, $7, to be clear. So when he's complaining about the cost, the costs in your city, and has that city been a bastion of fiscal conservatism? Oh, keep doing more of it? Okay, let's see how that works out. Let's continue.
Are $7 eggs expensive compared to a few years ago?
That would seem so, yes.
Because I feel like everything in New York is always more expensive.
It's always more expensive.
Isn't it?
It's always more expensive. And it's been a leftist utopia for quite a while, really. So
that even might be a lie.
One of the most overtaxed people in the country, and they're losing people because of the taxes. $4.50 for eggs across the country, $6.99 in New York City. Let's continue with more propaganda from this guy, but it's good for us.
Pricing, jacking up the cost over the course of a day depending on what they can get away with. It doesn't need to be this way. I'm Zohran Mamdani, and as mayor, I will create a network of city-owned grocery stores. It's like a public option. for produce.
Breadlines.
We will redirect city funds from corporate supermarkets to city-owned grocery stores, whose mission is lower prices, not price gouging. These stores will operate without a profit motive or having to pay property taxes or rent, and will pass on those savings to you. And the beauty of it is that it doesn't just apply to corporations headquartered in New York City. Because when you say this, people will say, well, they're going to go to Florida.
Yes.
Wherever you are headquartered, as long as you do business in the state of New York, you are taxable for that corporate
I just
tax.
want to do business
We're
in New
talking
York.
about corporations that are making millions of dollars, not in revenue, but in profit. And the second is taxing the top 1% of New Yorkers. We're talking about people who make $1 million a year or more, taxing them just by a flat 2% tax increase.
You are a self-described democratic socialist. Do you think that billionaires have a right to exist?
I don't think that we should have billionaires because, frankly, it is so much money in a moment of such inequality. And we have to ensure that we are unapologetic about our socialism. There are also other issues that we firmly believe in, whether it's BDS, right, or whether it's the end goal of ceasing the means of production, where we do not have the same level of support at this very moment.
So just to be clear, seizing the means of production, that is the Communist Manifesto. That is communism. He just said it. He said it's not popular right now, but that's ultimately what we want.
Seizing is good usually.
Yes.
You
Seizing
take
is-
things from people, from
Yes.
their country. That's a good thing.
That's saying the quiet part out loud. Now that video was uploaded yesterday. It wasn't new from yesterday, but this is what this guy thinks. Just go back to the grocery store example really quickly and see how long does it take you to figure out that this won't work. I now have a business that's going to compete with every other business, except they don't have to make a profit, they don't pay taxes, and they don't pay rent. What do you think is going to happen to all of the other businesses that operate typically on one of the slimmest profit margins in industry? Probably about 4 or 5%. Grocery stores are just going to go away. You remember the food desert thing that wasn't real? Guess what? The reality of those things may be coming to New York.
Yeah.
They're not going to survive. You can't. Guess who's going to go out? Do you think the big chain grocery stores are going to be the first to go? No. It's every mom and pop shop in New York will immediately have to go out of business or find something else to sell.
Yeah.
Because there's no way to compete.
When that city-owned grocery store runs out of Skippy and Jif, guess what? It's Peter Pan for you, douche.
Yep.
Oh, Peter Pan's better.
And
No
then
other options.
it's going to be riot season.
Yeah, that's the more serious
Food riots.
consequence.
Yep. So New York State, by the way, has the highest tax burden of any state, to be clear. New York City is even worse. All right. So when he talks about these government-run grocery stores, like you said, it's like Obamacare. It's a way of driving all competition out of business, so they have a monopoly that would be paid for by taxes, which already has a state that already has the highest tax burden. Those people are going to leave. He just told you, well, if you're headquartered anywhere else, if you do business in New York, look, you just gave the blueprint to businesses. They're not going to do business in New York. They're not going to do business in a dying city, in a dying state. And by the way, it's not just taxing corporations, because he went on to specify, and he said something he didn't need to say because he's racist. He said that part of paying for some of the policies like transportation includes, quote, shifting the tax burden to more expensive homes in richer and whiter neighborhoods. What? He didn't need to say whiter.
He didn't.
You could have just said richer. In New York City, we all know what that means. No one's going like, Harlem.
That's a white. Those are white tax now.
Yeah.
Are half black, half white people going to get a half white tax?
Could be.
I don't know. He's talking about property taxes. It could have just been richer neighborhoods. And it would have taken care of no matter who's there, but he's saying wider neighborhoods. Kristen Welker asked him that question and did it in a softball kind of way. She's like, well, don't you think that maybe some people might think that you didn't need to say that? And he said, well, I'm just saying what is. I'm not really saying that I'm starting from that prescription. And she didn't put his feet to the fire like she would have absolutely done if any Republican had said anything about a poor neighborhood and accidentally said ethnic.
Yeah.
In that. Any ethnicity. It doesn't matter what
Well,
they
here's
say.
why. Because the media, they're far more offended at someone sitting across from them advocating for First and Second Amendment rights than they are someone advocating for communism. If it was a Hegseth or if it was a Vance saying, hey, the First Amendment, the Second Amendment really matters, or military, they would be fact-checking, because that is more offensive to those in the media than a self-described Marxist advocating, by the way, for Marxism here in the United States and advocating for racial segregation effectively as a matter of policy. That tells you how much you should despise the media. If someone in your social circle was okay with saying, yeah, by the way, we just need to tax people based on race more. If they're white, tax them more. And you had an entire group of people going like, oh, okay, yeah, that's fine. And they lost their mind if they found out that you carried a gun. Would you still be friends with that? Of course not. You would realize you're not welcome. To the media, your point of view, you are not welcome. And then they want to blame you for their numbers cratering. Here's a funny post on X, actually. It was Germania Rodriguez Polio posted, me, a Venezuelan, watching rich celebrities campaign for government-run grocery stores. So they can have government-run grocery stores and increase their taxes on white people while the rest of the country sees reduced taxes and more affordable groceries, as we've seen with eggs and milk under Donald Trump. That's a good thing. It's not good for New York, so I'd advocate you guys just leave New York if you don't want to live in the hellscape that it's going to become. But having that contrast is going to be valuable for the country. Let's move on to the next one. There will be a contrast. And we have a direct apples-to-apples chart here. Mamdani's policies on crime. Just to be clear, spoiler alert, he's pro that.
I'm not going to be working alongside the Trump administration to build the single largest deportation force in American history. I'm going to actually represent each and every New Yorker, and that includes immigrant New Yorkers, and that means standing up for the laws of this city, like our sanctuary city policies, which have kept New Yorkers safe for decades.
Oftentimes,
Safe.
we've been found as legislators when
Watch.
we go into these courts. The term violent crime is even used when people are stealing packages. Violent crime is even used when people are accused of burglary and there happens to be a housing unit in that same dwelling.
Yes.
So violence is an artificial construction. And we have to be very clear that what is happening here with these district attorneys, that is violence. That is violence of the highest degree.
By the way, this guy really hates doors.
Yeah. There's no person that he's yelling at. Just a closed door.
Maybe it's the molding.
He's a theater kid. Come on.
Just to be clear, he says stealing packages is considered violent. What's the forced part of forced entry, which is involved in most burglaries? They don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. What happens if I say don't do that?
Yes.
If I get in their way of burglarizing me and I say don't do that.
Well, they also don't want you to be
They're
able
just
to
gonna
own
stop?
firearms either. So you just have to take the burglary, which isn't violent because the policy forced you into taking it. I love it's a construct.
It's not violent if you are a bitch and you don't do anything about it.
Exactly. And by the way,
okay.
Quick fun fact, New York City is the worst city for package theft in the country. 2024 was $1 billion.
I wonder if this guy encouraging it will decrease it.
Yes, exactly.
No. What happened? No. What he's saying is that it doesn't exist. He's trying to make it seem like New York is a less crime-ridden
He's
city.
telling you he would remove that from being considered a violent crime, breaking and entering,
So violent crime
burglary,
goes down.
theft. So crime is down.
Just redefine stuff and stuff goes down.
Yeah,
I
crime
like
is down. It also wouldn't be included in revenue losses due to crime in the city. So revenue losses are gone. They were wiped. We just don't count the theft. You, the American worker, the business owner, the bodega owner, the grocery store owner, someone who owns anything in your own apartment in New York, you're the one footing the bill in taxes and in stolen stuff because that's a social construct. Another stat that's quite, and by the way, this comes from Bloomberg, not a bastion of conservatism. Right. This is the contrast, okay? The U.S. average, as far as violent crime rates, right? A lot of the sort of the metric being used is pre-COVID crime rates because it skyrocketed and then kind of went down. In the United States, the violent crime rate is down 6.4% as far as compared to pre-COVID levels. In New York City, it's still up 32.2% compared to pre-COVID levels.
Before or after sanctuary city policies?
Yeah, well, it's only, you see, sanctuary city, boom, gets worse. But if you just don't count crime, so again, we have that contrast. The costs in the country at large going down. New York going up. The crime, U.S. at large going down. New York going up.
Way up.
And he wants to double down on what has created the crap hole that is New York. Crime is going to continue going down in the United States. And with someone like this, it'll continue to go up. Costs are going to continue to go down in the United States, and there will continue to go up. I'm willing to bet that wages will continue to go up in the United States at large, and they'll go down in New York City when compared to the cost of living. I hate to say that New York kind of has to be the sacrificial lamb here.
Yeah.
But I almost think it would be better if this guy won and you can lay it at his feet because New Yorkers, you get what you have been asking for. Some other policies that he's pushing for, ending cash bail. He wants to permit safe injection sites, which means doing drugs in front of your kids.
Yeah, pretty much.
He wants to decriminalize all drug possession. He wants to ban all guns and decriminalize all sex work, which is great for this guy. He's thrilled. Yeah.
Freak.
And then there's this fun one there. He said, "We don't need an investigation to know that the NYPD is racist, anti-queer, and..." What? This is one of the... Okay. Anti-queer. and a major threat to public safety. Okay, hold on a second here. Look, the racist thing is a trope, and by the way, you're more likely to be shot as an armed white person than an armed black person in this country. We have those stats, and you're far more likely to be shot as an officer by a black man than to shoot a black man. But I get it, right? It used to be like, okay, black people probably pulled over quite a bit more because some cops are racist. They might fit the criminal profile more as far as someone they're looking for. It used to be, but didn't you just throw in anti-queer? It's just let's throw in any minority group. It used to be driving while black. Now it's driving while fag. I don't know how this.
How can you tell? Is he? Giving each other road? What's going on? How do you know?
You just pull them over. Go. What's the trendiest colored interior design? Farmhouse chic. That's it. You're going to the clink.
Why is the cop gay?
I don't know.
They're all gay. They're just all.
So NYPD is racist, anti-queer, and a major threat to public safety. That's what we need to do is hashtag defund the NYPD. Yes, they are notoriously anti-queer. Who can forget the brutal beating of the Central Park 5 sodomites? That's, I believe, what he is referring to.
Some of them liked it. It's okay.
They raided a YMCA. And to give you an idea, when he's talking about this, the crime and the costs, from 2020 to 2024, New York City lost an estimated 327,000 residents, meaning people are leaving, and he wants to double down on policy that will encourage them to leave. Hey, I'm okay. I'm here for it. By the way, we have more to get to. This guy is just, the hits just keep coming with him. Here is Mamdani's even more radical stance on social issues.
And one of the things that we've said beyond saying that we're going to make this a sanctuary city.
Yes, that is a
LGBTQIA plus workers, beyond saying that we're going to establish an office of LGBTQIA.
It's got, Your Honor.
It's also that we're going to provide
Listen to this.
$5 million in funding for gender-affirming care, the same amount of funding the federal government threatened to pull out from local providers for that kind of work. And in this moment especially, if we want to fight the Trump administration, we have to do so by fully funding our own services, taxing the wealthiest New Yorkers and corporations.
Okay, let's assume the false premise of it's only going to be people earning $1 million or more, which, by the way, in New York City doesn't make you as rich as you think. I mean, $1 million doesn't get you a 3-bedroom walk-up in New York, to be clear. Okay, you really, really hate people making $1 million or more a year. All right, fine. Don't you still kind of think it's a move to make them pay for surgeries?
Yeah,
actually,
sorry,
Isn't that still a little too far?
sorry we can't fix the roads. Patricia wanted her removed.
Yes. Exactly.
It's not a move.
Right.
So
It's an inverted move.
Yes.
Split down the middle.
I was quoting.
So this gives you an idea how radical this guy is socially, because all of it has to be thrown into the same pot. These people have to be on the wrong side of every issue historically. They have to, because progress for the sake of progress leads to a clown show. In 2020, while running for state assembly, Mamdani wrote, "Our campaign is guided by feminist organizers committed to liberation for all and who acknowledge the added barriers WOC, working class, and trans women have to overcome." Wait, I thought you said feminists. What about trans women? Oh, you just act like the feminists, the longtime feminists who are opposed to men dressing up like women. You just act like they don't exist. Call them TERFs? Okay, got it. We need a feminism for all in NY, where violence, including police violence against women, is epidemic. You're actually much more likely to be shot, stabbed as a man, end up in prison as a man, where you will also experience violence.
Well, that's, I mean, the trans women, they are men.
Right. I don't understand what
And
he's
they
saying.
are prone to violence. Not a scientific fact, but.
But I think he might be playing queer D chess, because he also tweeted in support of giving the COVID vax
Okay.
to all prostitutes.
Now I'm on board.
So he
They're
said
not getting it
sex
before?
workers of any gender or sexual orientation, like just say sex workers. Okay, we assume there are a few degenerates in there.
You don't need to list
We don't care, like sex work. We're already not on board when you talk about
right.
giving free stuff to sex workers. But then you say COVID vax, and I look at the stats on myocarditis. I go, oh, maybe I am on board. That's just me. I'm a horrible person. So it said sex workers of any gender or sexual orientation are now also eligible for vaccination, in addition to men, cis or trans, who have sex with cis or trans men or trans women and trans non-binary and gender non-conforming New Yorkers.
Good Lord.
What? So he supports vaccines for sex workers, along with, by the way, every single booster available, which may explain why every New York hooker looks like this.
No tax on
We can tell.
It turned out far more disturbing than I thought it would.
is. Yes.
It's 2 a.m. You get on the G train.
Yes, yes.
Not much better.
That's what
than
you
kid.
see.
Where's is it Berkowitz? Was it Berkowitz?
Yeah.
Who was the guy who
David
took out
Berkowitz?
No, Berkowitz was the guy that was the killer who talked to the dog. What's the name of the guy who was it Bernie Getz? Bernie Getz.
Oh, with the
yeah, the guy who shot them. Where's Bernie Getz when you need him?
Well,
How did Mamdani make it?
I don't know.
So he thinks that his policies.
Not calling for his death, by the way.
No, we're
saying
not.
that
We're not.
thing,
We're not.
the
We're not.
Photoshop.
We're just. I don't know. So Mamdani thinks that his policies will actually work not only in New York, but for the rest of like even in places like Oklahoma, the whole country.
You're a proud democratic socialist. Do you think that is a platform that would work for other candidates running in other parts of the country?
Absolutely. I think ultimately this is a campaign about inequality. And you don't have to live in the most expensive city in the country to have experienced that inequality because it's a national issue. And what Americans coast to coast are looking for are people who will fight for them, not just believe in the things that resonate with their lives, but actually fight and deliver on those very things. And part of how we got to this point was through the endorsements of Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Senator Bernie Sanders, who've been leading this fight against oligarchy across the country. And I think that in focusing on working people and their struggles, we also return back to what makes so many of us proud to be Democrats in the first place.
So let me be really clear. I've talked about this. Inequality is not a problem in and of itself. Poverty is. Okay, poverty is a problem. And you see much more poverty in New York. You also see more inequality. Across the rest of the country, in rural areas, like you talk about, for example, Oklahoma or Texas, you see far less inequality in those areas, to be clear. Inequality is not the problem we need to address if we are lifting more people out of poverty. You can have more equality and have far more poverty. Or you could have more inequality, but you can have rising wages, right? Those are both options. You can also have more inequality and you can have more poverty. That's what happens in New York City. But what they do is they prey on greed. And this is something that's very important because when people say I'm a compassionate conservative, no, I think conservatism is already compassionate. I think that you work hard and you should be able to keep what you have earned for your family. To be clear, the left, their version of compassion is preying on this inequality. So it doesn't matter what you have. It doesn't matter if you're better off. It's, hey, they have something you don't. It's basically an entire platform that campaigns on human covetousness, on human greed, while gaslighting you into saying you're greedy for wanting to keep what you've created, what you've earned. You're not greedy for wanting to take that person's stuff. Inequality is not the problem. It can be when we see the greatest wealth transfer, for example, in our lifetime during COVID, to the big tech giants. Why? Because mom and pop grocery stores were locked down and shut down. But you can still go to Costco. You can still go to Walmart. Amazon made a killing. Right? The inequality is almost invariably exacerbated by big government policy. Too big to fail? That's a policy that demands inequality. If there's a policy that says you're not too big to fail, even though you're a private business, but you are because you're big enough, you have now just created inequality. Inequality in variable outcomes for the average American. Maybe this person tried something on their own, took a risk, and makes $80,000 a year. Maybe they make $50,000 a year. Maybe this person started and they were more successful and they now make $350,000 a year. That's not a problem if people have equal access to opportunity and more people are being lifted out of poverty. For example, inequality tends to grow no matter what in a nation that is successful. Right? That just tends to be the natural trajectory of things because you have people who figure out how to take advantage of that system. And as that system gets bigger and government gets bigger, there tend to be more levers that those people can pull. There was inequality that did widen under Donald Trump, but for the first time, average wages went up in 3 years over $4,000. They only went up $1,000 under Barack Obama. Now, inequality was widening under Barack Obama and certainly under Biden, to be clear. Wages went down $4,000 under Biden. So what's the bigger problem? That inequality tends to widen under George Bush, under Barack Obama, under Donald Trump, under Joe Biden, no matter what the policy is? Or would you rather address the issue of your wages? And part of that can be addressed by allowing you to keep more of your wages, as we see. They want you to vote for them out of covetousness, while accusing the people who've worked their ass off and want to keep it of being greedy. Now, this doesn't work with everyone. Not everyone is enamored with Mamdani, especially President Trump. Here's his post. He wrote, "It's finally happened. The Democrats have crossed the line. Zohran Mamdani, a 100% communist lunatic, has just won the Dem primary and is on his way to becoming mayor. We've had radical leftists before, but this is getting a little ridiculous. He looks terrible." People say, I would never say that. They said, this could be the end of my career. Not supposed to say it, but everyone says, he looks terrible, horrible. I say, don't say that. His voice is grating. He's not very smart. He's got AOC +3. Dummies all backing him, and even our great Palestinian senator, crying Chuck Schumer, is groveling over him. Yes, this is a big moment in the history of our country.
And when he saw the video that we have of Mamdani eating.
Do we have the video?
Yes, we do.
Roll it.
He said, gross.
So the third hope.
Gross! That's what he wipes with.
You see how they eat the rice with their fingers, lick it as they do it, and then chuck it back into the bowl?
Let's go. Tell me, why is
Watch.
Palestine a part of your politics?
When you grow up as someone, especially in the third world, you have a very different understanding.
Yo, you
of
could
the
steal a
Palestinian
fork. F you.
I've seen Slumdog Millionaire. They got them everywhere.
I order food. They come with 6 forks.
I know. Yeah, I know.
Fork? I don't know.
I said I actually wrote no utensils. They
Right.
gave me extra utensils.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
He didn't grow up poor either. Let's just be
He's a
really
trust
clear
fund
about
kid.
this.
Even Chinese people are like, I would rather use 2 little stick
Two stick.
than use my finger. That is disgusting.
What are your country you know have tree? Go take stick off tree.
Could be poop. Still you.
This is the same party, by the way, that told you to sing happy birthday while washing your hands in COVID, right? And to sanitize your packages. And he's eating with his hands in a bowl after just wiping them on his pants like an animal.
It's like a wet rice dish.
For
I know.
no reason.
It's got rice and some meat and sauce on it. He's just putting his fingers in there
Why
and
would he need
saying,
to?
vote for me.
The old way of doing things is not always the best way, just to be clear. Sometimes, sure, you need to respect traditions. And sometimes you go, it's a good thing we have forks.
Yeah, or a spoon,
Yeah.
You can go with a spork if you're crazy.
Which, by the way, it doesn't really take that much ingenuity to look at food, realize that your hands are getting sticky. Cavemen used a rock. They were like, "Ugh, hands gross, rock, clean."
It would be more sanitary and would look less off-putting if he just put his face in there like a dog.
Yes, yeah.
Just that would be way better.
Yeah, like a clown being pied
Yeah.
horizontally.
Yes.
It'd be fine. I'd be less grossed out. I don't like them. That's the point.
neither.
And by the way, I'm not the only one. You even have Democrats who are going like, oh, I think we're going a little too far. And then, of course, all the DNC, they go like, shut up. So former Chicago mayor and Obama advisor, chief of staff, Rahm Emanuel, and professional shower poker. He came out and he said, my party's future isn't Mamdani's New York. We won't realize the American dream by consulting the Democratic Socialist of America's playbook. Why do you think a Democrat like Rahm Emanuel is sounding the alarm bells? And people like James Carville, people who, have actually won elections, have actually helped to win elections. Whether you agree with them or not, they are effective. I think we're seeing the disconnect between clickbait and X and social media. It can become real life, but to be clear, it doesn't always reflect real life. And if you look at Reddit, for example, if you were to go on Reddit and read Reddit politics and look at the comments, you would think that everyone in this country is a Democratic Socialist, and certainly everyone in the Democrat Party. Now, the little trick they pull on Reddit is they say it's politics and all voices are welcome. They ban you if you're a conservative, to be clear. And they certainly ban you if you're a Trump supporter. The moderators are basically Gestapo. So you would think that. Then you go out in the real world and you realize that even with Democrats, and certainly people who were like Hispanic Democrats, Black Democrats, they're not on board with all of this, and certainly not the gender bending fiasco. It's been a fiasco for them.
Yeah.
But they're able to create a viral campaign, and they're able to win a primary, and then the people who have to vote Democrat because they're New Yorkers, this is what they're left with. But I think you're seeing a real disconnect from real life and social media. And I think that those who are sounding those alarm bells are saying, this isn't going to win. And even if this wins in New York City, it's going to be catastrophic historically, and it's going to lose us our national platform. And so I hope they continue to do it.
Yeah.
I want to see more AOCs. I want to see more Bernies. I want to see more guys like Mamdani. First off, because they only get elected in these radically left districts who get exactly what they deserve. And it's really good to have real life in real time cautionary tales so America knows what to avoid.
Yeah.
I want to see more of it too. I want to see AOC eating that rice with her big long fingers. Ooh, better yet, one of those things they put on the horse to eat.
Feedback?
Feedback. That kind of sounds perverted.
Yeah.
It's not. It's for food.
Well, I've sucked on a couple feedbacks, if you know what I mean.
I know. She's been eating with her fingers. She eats one of those horse poop bags too.
Oh, yes.
So I won't lie. Sometimes I see those and I'm jealous. I'm like, he can just go whenever he wants.
Joe Biden had it all.
Yeah.
Well, look, I want to make sure that you...
Oh, sorry. I wanted to just, and then I want you to keep that point. But this is important because you need to know, here's how you know that it's unpopular. Because the baseline position that helped win Donald Trump the presidency is, okay, we all agree that America's big cities are failing, right? And everyone goes, right. Do you have a solution? In other words, the contention was not with the premise of America's cities are failing. Everyone knows that's the case. Across America, no one thinks that New York is a success story. No one thinks that Detroit is a success story. No one thinks San Francisco, Los Angeles. No one looks to those cities and goes, okay, we should do more of that. So he campaigned on criticizing, knowing it was a populist issue, the failing cities, big cities of America.
And so I say to the people of New York, with crime at record levels, with terrorists and criminals pouring in.
Gavin Newsom and Kamala, and I want to say Kamala more so. She destroyed San Francisco and she destroyed the state.
I look outside, I look at the streets, it's so different from when I left New York. It's so different. It's dirty and it's crime-ridden. And today you walk down the street and you get mugged or you get shot. Within the span of a few decades, Los Angeles has gone from being one of the cleanest, safest, and most beautiful cities on earth to being a trash heap with entire neighborhoods under the control of transnational gangs and criminal networks. It's horrible. I look at Chicago. I mean, you got a really bad governor in Chicago and a bad mayor. But the governor's probably the worst in the country, Pritzker. But I look at how that city has been overrun by criminals.
And here's the thing. You're never going, or you're very unlikely to win New York City. But what you saw, as far as a really big shift, and a lot of people haven't spent enough time on it, was the popular vote. Right? Donald Trump obviously had an a landslide, if you want to argue. Okay, he had a significant win with the Electoral College, but he won the popular vote. So even if more people leave New York City, the people who are leaving New York City are going to be leaving with in the back of their head, I don't want that.
Yeah.
And that's what led to, in 2024, the biggest swing toward Donald Trump, urban voters. Doesn't mean he won them, but he won them by such a he lost them while still gaining a significantly higher margin, such a significantly higher margin in 2024 that he won the popular vote. That was a big contributor. That wouldn't have been a big contributor if they didn't go so far left. They've now had what they've asked for. They go, ooh, I was wrong about that.
Yeah.
Sort of like COVID. COVID, the reason you saw so many people turn on the Democrat Party is they said, give unto us a king. How many people do you know who said, oh, yeah, I was afraid and I thought we needed lockdowns. I was afraid and I thought we needed to, stop the spread at that point, right? Remember, stop the curve. Then I realized I was lied to. People need to realize they've been lied to sometimes.
That was me.
Yeah?
Yeah,
that's a lot of people. It's a lot of people. Mm-hmm. Because you think it won't get that bad until you see neighbors ratting out neighbors and you see people losing their livelihoods because of policy that we now know is not based on science. So the urban voting swing in 2024. Core urban votes swung to Donald Trump by 8 points. Other urban areas, 5.8 points. There was still an increase as far as the swing to Donald Trump, but in the suburbs, it was about 4.5%. Rural, it was about 3.7%. Those are areas that he typically has already won. Republicans win.
Did better.
And he did better in those areas, but he won a huge number of new votes in urban areas. And you don't need that many to maintain this popular vote. What if that goes to core urban votes, a swing from 2020 to Republicans, plus 10, plus 12%? The Democrats would never win the popular vote ever again. In New York, from 2020 to 2024, the swing toward Donald Trump was 10 points.
Jeez.
He gained by 10 points. In New York City, he gained by 16 points. He went up 16 points in the election. Doesn't mean that he won New York City, but he gained 16. That's a huge city. In California, he went up by 9 points from 2020 to 2024. San Francisco, the bluest of the blue, he gained 8 points in 4 years. Illinois, the state at large, 6 points. Okay, but when you consider that Illinois is basically Chicago and cornfields, Chicago itself by 9 points. And so we don't need really a new plan. We have the blueprint. Let the left do exactly what it is we know they're going to do in these big cities and do the opposite nationally. And since, we all know that leftists, that Democrats are very covetous, as you can see by tax policy, people in Chicago, people in New York, people in Los Angeles are going to look to the rest of the country and go, but I want that. Great. Let them see what it is that they want that they can't have because of what they voted for, and we'll continue making these swings. Don't interrupt your enemy when he's making a mistake. Mamdani, I think he should be the poster child. He's pro-crime. He's pro every single quote-unquote woke social policy. He's pro increasing taxes. He's an actual communist, and he will fight Trump at every turn. So he will fight the decrease in inflation that we see throughout the country at every turn. He will fight the increase in wages, which you undoubtedly will see, calling it now, everywhere else across the country while his wages go down in his city. He will fight Donald Trump's agenda, which will lead to continuing, decreasing crime stats while it goes up in his city. And at a certain point, selfish people in big cities are going to go, you know what? This just isn't working, and it's bad. And when they think this isn't working and it isn't bad, this is bad, wouldn't it be nice to have a face to go with their name? Mamdani.
The name you know.
Yes. And sorry, you had a point. I just want to get those stats.
I think you're 100% right. I hope that he's able to, if he wins, obviously we'd like somebody else to win and avoid this catastrophe. But if he does, the silver lining is this. Well, I mean, yes and no, right? I understand that point, but at the same time, I want this to be so good. I want Trump's economy and his plan to work so well that it makes people like this irrelevant in the first place. We've got AOC and Bernie Sanders that are really going out there and just kind of throwing their lot in full socialism, not even worrying about hiding it anymore. So is this guy seizing the means of production. What do you think that means? What do you think that looks like practically? This isn't a fight against oligarchy. Don't get this twisted. It's a fight against free markets and freedom.
Yes.
They don't want people to have freedom and self-reliance and accountability. They want people to be dependent on the government and have the government decide winners and losers from now until eternity. So in the short term, if he gets elected, he will make their lives better for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And then the consequences will start kicking in very, very quickly. And Trump has to be so good that it just makes this look like the absolute worst decision any city has ever made. And they don't even come close to anybody like AOC and Bernie Sanders ever again. It has to be so definitive that we kill socialism as early as possible.
Yeah. But let it go on a little longer. Let it go on a little longer in New York City.
I get it.
Let them live with it.
Yeah.
Let them wallow in their own filth.
It's like when you see your kid on the jungle gym doing something you know he can't do, but he insists on doing it over and over and over again. You're like, all right, fine. Try the rock wall, stupid.
I agree.
Yep.
I agree.
Yeah, then they had to go in and
the ground's padded. Try the rock wall.
Yeah, they had to pad the ground like pussies. That's what they do in the city, so the kids don't get to actually learn the error of their ways.
Well, maybe New Yorkers, like the actual people that come out for the general election for this race and not just the primary, maybe they'll go like, we maybe made a mistake. Like maybe this guy's policies are too radical and we just weren't paying attention, because the fraction of the voting base that voted for this, you've got Democrats coming out. Like mainline Democrats don't support this vocally. They support a candidate that's popular, period. That's what they always do.
Right.
But they don't necessarily support the policies. This is the far wing of the party right now, and it's fracturing the Democrats because they're like, hey, maybe we can get some votes. I don't support those policies, but maybe.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think they're strong enough in condemning it with their language.
Yeah. Eric Adams hit back at him, though.
Oh, did he? Do we have a clip?
So, it's not a
it's a
clip.
post.
Initially, there was that 50 Cent post where he said that he'd send him the plane, the first class plane.
$258,750. I'm not sure why.
Wait. I don't understand what you guys just said.
Okay, so first off, 50 Cent said, where did he come from? Whose friend is this? I'm not feeling this plan. No, I'll give him $258,750 and a first-class one-way ticket away from New York. I'm telling Trump what he said, too. And Eric Adams responded to that. He said, hey, 50 Cent, Make it a one-way ticket to Fantasyland. He'll fit right in. It's the only place rent is optional, vibes are currency, and your parents still cover your deductible.
Ah, that's nice.
Damn.
It's already a little
Good from Eric Adams. Yeah.
He's gonna get trounced though.
Yeah, but he courted these people too. During Black Lives Matter, it's all this amalgamate of socialism and Marxism. I mean, you can't throw your lot in with Black Lives Matter, who seek the destruction of the nuclear family because it's a byproduct of Western civilization, oppression, and patriarchy, and then go, I can't believe how radical this guy is. Well, you built him. Yeah. You built him. Elizabeth Warren, you built this guy. Kamala Harris, sex change operations, taxpayer funded. Well, where did we hear that before?
You're a role model to this guy.
Yeah.
He looks up to you. What did they do? Let me try to make it more.
I'm going to be like you, Dad. You know I'm going to be like you. Oh, you're still here? And you're still watching this on YouTube? You've probably noticed something is missing by now. I'm not here. That's because the Live Daily Show is now streaming exclusively on Rumble weekdays at 11 a.m. Eastern. Tune in there, where nothing is censored.